Hi, today we are going to make this slider pop-up card using the Cricut. Hope you enjoy. Alright, so we are going to start in Design Space. I'm going to add a shape. I'm going to adjust that shape to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Then I'm going to change that to a print and cut, and I'm going to apply a pattern. Originally I was thinking a green background, but then I changed my mind and decided I want this background to represent the sky, so I found a blue and white kind of polka dot pattern that I like that I applied to the background. Next, I'm going to add a line, and this is to create the slider mechanism for the pop-up slider. So I'm going to adjust the size to 4. I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to move that 2 inches apart. So this is going to be a 4 by 2 mechanism. I'm going to change that to a cut instead of score. Next, I am going to go ahead and duplicate it again, and I'll rotate it 90 degrees, reduce it to 2 inches. And I'm going to attempt to put it down on the bottom where it should be, but I miscalculated for some reason. I don't know what I was doing for the coordinates. And I put it way off to the side, so I went and searched for it and found it again. And you'll see me go back and put new coordinates in, try to get it to the right spot, which took me a minute. Not sure what was going on with my brain. So now I'm going to put it to the right position at the bottom. And this is going to be another cut line. So we're going to have cuts on the 2 sides and the bottom for the slider mechanism. Then I duplicated that, and I'm going to put the next one into the right position, which is going to be halfway mark, and that's going to be changed to a score line. This is where we're going to fold the mechanism. I'm going to duplicate it again, put it at the top. Again, it's a score line, and I'm going to attach the entire mechanism together. Now I'm going to attach this mechanism to the background. So when it prints and cuts, it's going to print this whole background. It's going to then score and cut the middle sections when it is going through the Cricut machine. Now I use the Cricut Maker. I know I do have a Cricut Explorer as well, so it's something else you can use with no issue with this. Now I made another shape. I didn't end up using this. This is just for the actual background of attachment, the back piece. It was just 4 1/2 by 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, but I didn't end up using that in the end because I had a piece that was already that size, so no reason to cut that out with a Cricut. I normally don't cut those shapes out with Cricut just because it wastes some paper. Now this next shape is for the pull tab. Now originally I went ahead and you can see I applied a pattern to it, but then when I changed the size to what size it needed to be, it kind of distorted the pattern. So I went back, and you'll see me in a minute that I'm going to delete it, change it back to white. See where this is distorted? I'm going to delete this, start again, start with white, get it to the right size first, and then I'm going to apply the pattern so it doesn't distort that pattern. I'm not sure if anybody has had issues with that in the past, but I didn't lock it so that it's going to distort. So here you see I'm putting it at white. I'm going to go ahead and also add accidentally multiple ones, but I need to put a little tab at the bottom, so I'm going to make it 2 by 1/4. I'm going to put that in the bottom, change it to white. Oops, and more squares accidentally, but I'll get it in position, the correct position, so it lines up at the bottom of this tab. And then I'm going to center it horizontally. And so I got it up to the bottom position. I'm going to center it horizontally. And then I'm going to attach the whole thing. Now it's one big piece. So now you can see it's going to fit. It's going to attach to the bottom of the slider mechanism. And I'll still have a pull piece at the top. So I'm going to add pull at the top of this tab, and I'm just going to print it instead of trying to stamp it or anything. All of this is through Cricut, so I'm not going to do any stamping on this. You'll see a little bit later I did do some little bit of marker just because I wanted to brighten up the corn a little bit, but you'll see that in a minute. So I'm just centering this, attaching it, checking to make sure it's going to appear right above the section there. I'm just making sure you can still see pull at the end of it. One thing I did forget to do here, there should be a score line between the bigger portion and that bottom rectangle. It doesn't really matter too much because it was easy enough to just fold it, but normally I have done these before and I put a score line in there, but I just forgot to do that this time. So now I'm going back into changing that to a print and cut, and I am searching and missing and searching and missing and trying to find that same pattern. It took me a minute going back and forth. My computer was a little bit slow, so I keep going back and forth, and I'll eventually find it and apply that same pattern to it. As you see, here we go. I finally decided to start at top, and there we go. Finally get the pattern applied. And then I am going to flatten the entire thing. So it's going to print out that pattern plus the wording, and then it will cut around the entire image, and that will create the pull mechanism for the slider pop-up. Now with this card, it's a farm scene, so it's going to be a bunch of corn stalks and a tractor in front of it. And I scrolled through, so I searched corn stalk at first. I didn't really find anything I liked, so I went back and I changed it into corn and see if there's anything else I liked. So when I scroll through in corn, not really finding much that I liked. I do kind of like the stalk on this one, and went through, finally decided that I am going to use the one that I stopped at and just adjust it and use only the corn stalk out of that image. So I go back up here, select it and insert it. Now I'm going to ungroup it, and then I will delete the portions that I do not want. So I'm going to delete the envelope, the card, the surrounding stuff. I'm just going to leave the corn stalk only. Now I'm going to unlock it. I'm going to adjust the dimensions of this a little bit. It wasn't quite as tall as I wanted to, so now I'm just making a whole bunch of them. I'm duplicating them. You'll see me move the background here. I'm going to select them all and duplicate them, so I have 3. I'll do that several times to get enough. And now I'm going to just start adjusting where I want that corn to go as far as my image goes. So I was adjusting and moving stuff around. Then I decided, I kept going back and forth. So I'm getting these arranged to where I want them, or where I think I want them at first. I'm not really messing around with the placement or arrangement, like what's in front, what's in back yet. They'll do that later. So I'm attaching them, moving them over. I don't like that it's not all the way to the edge. I want these to go all the way across and even hang over the edge a little bit. So adding more. It's enough to, that I think is going to cover the whole thing. So I'm adjusting more. I'm still not really loving the placement of these, but I'm just seeing what I can do at this point. And what I will do eventually is I'm going to attach all of these and flatten them so it's just one big piece when you're attaching it to your card. So I did do a little bit of adjustment to send them back. That's about the size that I wanted across. What I decided I'm going to do is first I was going to just make a half circle, but now I'm going to search for a half circle. Insert it. I'm going to flip it vertically. And I'm going to unlock it. I am going to apply a pattern to it. There's a green plaid pattern that I like to use. And then I'm going to unlock it, and then I'm going to adjust it into a hill. And I'm just going to make it 4.25 for the width. And then I'm going to start arranging those corn stalks around that actual hill. So again, I'm going to be adjusting here for a bit. It took me a while. It's not perfect. I wasn't, 100% happy with the final, placement, everything, but it was nice enough, I think. I like it at the end. And a lot of this is going to be covered up by a tractor that's going to sit in front of it, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to fast forward through this, and then we'll get back to you when we get the final placement so you can see what we do then. Okay, so I've gotten the corn where I want it, attached it, and I am now going to flatten it with the hill background. I will bring that over, check it, make sure it looks right on the background where I want it, and it looks good. Now I start looking for the tractors that I want to put in front of the corn. Scroll through a little bit. I like that red tractor that popped up in the beginning. That's what I do eventually use. So you'll see me adding that to just design space. And I'm going to adjust it based on my background. So as I said, most of that corn, good portion of that's going to be covered up. Now I'm just checking to see a different tractor. We always had green tractors growing up on our farm, so I do like to add the green tractor, but it's too much green, so I immediately deleted that and went with the red tractor. We do also have red tractors, but most of them were green. We have the John Deere tractors. Now I'm going to add a half circle, and the purpose of this, I'm going to unlock it and adjust it. The purpose of this is going to be at the very bottom. There's going to be another hill, so I'm going to unlock this and adjust it. I'll apply that same pattern, but that hill is going to hide the slider mechanism. So this is going to have 2 rows of foam tape, and it'll pop that up, and then when the slider mechanism goes back down, it's going to be hidden behind this hill. So you see I'm adjusting it, trying to get the right size. I do end up applying the pattern and trimming out and making a straight edge, which I think I really should have done manually, not on the Cricut, but you'll see how that goes. So I'm going to add a square. I just add another square. And then I'm going to use it to slice. When you slice, you can only have 2 images, and they overlap, and then they will slice out what you don't want. I use this a lot to clean up images, so if there's a portion of an image that I don't want, sometimes I'll just use another image like a circle and use it to slice off the pieces that I don't want on my image. Sometimes there was say a bee in the sky that I decided I don't want to use. So I can use a circle, slice that portion out of the image, and then only have the image that I want remaining. Once I get this sliced and ready to go, I'll be back. So what I've decided to do is use the square and line up with the background as a cutting guide. That'll give me the perfect size. As you can see, it'll fit right in the bottom of that portion of the slider card. And again, we are going to be popping this up with a couple layers of foam tape underneath it, so it will not interfere with the slider mechanism in the end. Now, as you can see, this is a little tall, so I need to adjust it and chop off the bottom of it. I'm going to use the same technique of inserting a square and then I will slice it and reduce the size of it, because I like the shape of it now. I don't want this top shape adjusted or skewed. I just want it a little bit shorter. So I will do that and be right back. Okay, you saw that I added that to the back of the background. So I had it placed where I wanted it. I'm using the square. I'm going to add that square. I'm going to line it up with the background. And then I can slice off the portion that I don't want. And I'll have the perfect shape. And we'll be ready to go to assemble. And we're just checking one last time to make sure I like all of the placements and the way it's looking. I've moved the tractor up a little bit more, but to me this is looking good. So now we are ready to assemble. I'm saving my project and we will switch over to how to assemble this card. I'll be right back. All right, so now everything has been printed out and cut with the Cricut Maker, and it's time to assemble the card. So I've got my tractor and background. Some of this I've adjusted a little bit with the corn. Now I'm assembling the first part of the slider mechanism. So I am folding on the score lines that I used the Cricut to make. Again, I forgot to do a score line on this one, but as you can see, it's super easy to just fold this tab. And what I will be doing is using my ATG gun to attach this. I was a little worried to see if that was enough strength, but I haven't had any problems with it holding, so it seems to hold pretty well. I was at one point using score tape, but it seems like that can be overkill, and the ATG gun has been working perfectly. So, and it's a lot cheaper than score tape, so I will probably try to use that as much as possible. And so I'm attaching it here, and it'll flip over, so you'll see the pull tab up at the top, and I'm just checking to make sure the mechanism is working correctly. And then what we will start doing is getting the assembly going as far as the front with the corn and the tractor. When I'm doing that, I use a piece of acetate to attach. The reason I do that is because I like the clear sky, and then you'll see at the end I attach some clouds to that, so it's a little more interesting, I think, if you have kind of a clear background with it popping up above the tractor. You can add some clouds. I have also done cards where I actually printed on the acetate to make it a blue sky on there, and that looks pretty cool. So from now I am just going to be gluing these together, and we will fast forward for this, and I'll talk to you at the end. One thing, there is a spot on the corn that's dark green, and what I was doing was I was using some alcohol markers to maybe adjust some of the colors on this, which I didn't really end up liking, and at the end it doesn't matter. You'll see that the tractor will cover that up. So we'll be back when this is getting closer to be finished to be assembled. So this is the card assembled. As you can see, there was a white border that I left around the edge of this one on the top, and I had rounded the corners. Normally I would do that before I started assembling, but I hadn't planned on rounding the corners and made that decision at the end, but it was easy enough to do. Even with the foam tape, I will sometimes round the corners on the bottom if I decide at the end that I like the rounded corners better. So I'm just using Reptile glue and adding these two little clouds to the top of that acetate. And that'll be the end of the assembly, and you'll see we'll go ahead and pull that up. And hopefully this video has helped you understand how you can make your own templates within Cricut Design Space and create mechanisms for sliders. I'll have a few more videos out eventually on how to make different types of interactive mechanisms for cards. So I hope you enjoyed, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment. Thank you.